I've been pretty fortunate over the past few years to be able to get my hands on some high-end hardware for the purposes of gaming or video editing or honestly doing whatever I want with. But the reality is, for the majority of people out there, building a system with an RTX 3090 like I have here right next to me and an i9-12900K is not going to be feasible, whether due to budgetary restrictions or time restrictions or geo restrictions. Gaming at the highest end is just not something that most people get to do. So what I want to do today and moving forward over the next few videos is start a new series where I examine what the differences are between high-end gaming and budget gaming. Is the experience noticeably worse? Can you still have an amazing time on a lower end machine? And honestly, do we even care at the end of the day if we still get to play some games? So the first thing that we're going to need to do in order to kick off this video series is get ourselves a mid-range PC. What's the best way to do that? What price should you expect to pay? And what kind of hardware will you be getting for your investment? To do that, I've partnered with Jawa.gg in order to pick a new system, buy it, get it into the studio, take a look at what it offers, and see how it performs. All right, so here is the Jawa.gg website. If you guys aren't familiar, this was actually a company that was started during the recent hardware shortage where people were scalping their components and you got a lot of people just buying bots in order to secure as many graphics cards as possible for either mining or for flipping, making huge profits on sites like eBay. And the founders of Jawa actually were the opposite of that. They were kind of the antithesis of the whole hardware scalper movement. They wanted to be able to provide a marketplace where people could reasonably purchase new and used computer hardware. So they started this site, and I actually asked them how exactly they are able to make sure that nobody is scalping, and the listings are actually vetted by their staff. So if they determine that somebody is actually selling something for above MSRP or above market value, they will have that listing taken down or modified. So I actually think that's a really novel approach. I'm interested to see how it will work at scale once Jawa starts to become a larger company with more submissions. If they're able to keep up with that review process, I certainly hope so. But for now, it's a marketplace where you could find reasonably priced new and used PC hardware. And today we're going to find a full custom PC here because one of the categories that they offer right up the top is custom PCs. So let's click on that and see what exactly they offer on the website. Now, because the aim of this video and video series is going to be to see what budget or mid-range gaming looks like and feels like in comparison to a high-end experience, I want to restrict our search parameters to only show us reasonably priced systems. I ran a poll on Twitter where you guys said that you think a budget build is likely between $400 and $600, with a lot of people actually also responding up to $800. And in the comments of that tweet, a lot of people were saying that, you know, the $800 range is actually pretty reasonable for a budget setup if you want some future compatibility. I also think that going up to $1,000 is not all that out of the realm of possibility for a lot of people. But I think we're going to keep it under $1,000 for today and see what exactly is available, see maybe what the best deals are, and see where we end up as far as getting ourselves a good low mid-range PC. So in order to do that, you just go over here to the price filters. We're going to hit $1,000 max price. We're going to show 127 listings of custom PCs. And then we are going to sort. Let's sort by highest price. So we'll see what exactly a $1,000 PC looks like on the site. And then we'll see maybe what an $800 PC looks like on the site. So let's click on the first one. It's a 1440p gaming PC. All right, so it's got an 11600K and a 6700 XT. Looks like it's built relatively well. And it's in a Lian Li 011 Mini. So that's a pretty good case. Let's just quickly scroll through a couple of these. So just to get an idea of exactly, you know, what we might be getting for this price. So we've got a 5600G and a 2060. We've got a 5600 and an RTX 2070 Super. That seems like a way better deal than anything we've seen so far. Maybe the 6700 XT is actually also pretty good. We got a Meshlicious build. Look at that. 3600X and an RTX 3060. So there are definitely some interesting builds on here. So this is an example of what I think is a pretty interesting build. A GTX 1080 and a 5600G. $980 for this is probably a little bit overpriced, but it's not out of the realm of you know, reasonable. And this is a used build, so it's been somebody's system probably for a little while. And now they're selling it on Jawa. So there are builders on here that do custom builds specifically for this site and sell the PCs as new. And there are also just users like you and me that have a PC, they use it for a while, and it's time to sell, and then they come on here. So, you know, just scrolling down a little bit more, we've got a RTX 3050 build, a 6600 build, 12th gen Intel and 6500 XT build. Some of these pictures are way better than others. This is a pretty decent picture, you know, where you have some listings that look like this, and a picture looks like it was taken underwater. So just be careful with what you're buying. You can request other photos from sellers. So you could actually just send the sellers a message through this little button right here. And if you don't like the price, you can make an offer. So it's possible that you could get this for less than $950 if you don't think that that is right for the combination of hardware that you have on here. But just scrolling down a little bit more, I want to find something. I think I'm going to stick around maybe $850, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think that's probably a good price point to be at. So why don't we change this filter to 850, and we'll look at 93 listings. So we've got a 11400F and an RTX 2070, which seems pretty good. It will cost you another $31 in shipping. We've got, what is this, a budget entry-level PC, 12100F and an RX 6600. That doesn't seem quite as good. 6600, that might be the target here for a GPU. RTX 2070 and a Ryzen 5 3600 for $824. That's not bad. Newly built custom PC, GTX 1070, probably not what you want for $800. So there's definitely going to be some listings on here that you probably aren't going to like, but that's okay. You know, it's a market where now you can determine what you want to pay because prices are coming down, and you can get hardware for a lot more reasonable rates than before. Just like this, $800 for GTX 1060 build, probably a little overpriced. But there are definitely some good deals to be had here if you want to search through all of these listings. Let me find a PC that I think is a good value and one that I'm going to buy for this whole video series, and we'll get back to you.
A few moments later.
All right, so I found this PC, and it seems like a decent deal, but in order to price compare, I went on PC Part Picker and priced out the same exact hardware that you're getting with this build. Now, a couple of the prices I had to manually enter because they're not really sold at retail anymore, like the RTX 2070, this Dark Flash DLM22, but this is what you could get the GPU for on eBay right now, and the $65 for this case is what it MSRP'd for when it came out. So if you scroll down here, this is $770 worth of parts. So if you're getting this for $824, that means that you're paying a $60 build fee, which is more than reasonable. Most builders will charge $100 or more for that. But considering that we could buy these parts for $770 ourselves, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make an offer to this guy for $770 and see if we can get this system for the price that we could build it for otherwise. And if so, then good for us. And if not, we could maybe try to find something else.
1 week later.
Well, guys, here we are a few days later, and a package has arrived. Now, I talked to the seller about this. We originally offered him $770. He came back with an offer of $800, which honestly I think is pretty fair. It allows him some flexibility in how much he charges for his build fee. Also, it likely means he's not out money by selling this below his cost. And I still got a really good deal on some really decent hardware, but I haven't opened the box yet. So it remains to be seen what this build actually looks like and how it runs. So let's take it out of the box and check out his handiwork. Okay, all unpacked. Have not yet hit the power button, but we are plugged in, and we have our little accessory bag, which they included here, and a little note that says, "Builds by Zeph, Customs and Commissions. Thank you for your purchase. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us via the website, chat, email, or Discord." So there's an email address on here, there's Discord, there's an Instagram handle, and it comes on this little card here. So this is a really nice touch. You know, if you have any problems, you could just get in touch with the seller and hopefully they can help you out. Now, the only other thing that came in this Ziploc bag was a remote control. I assume there's going to be some RGB effects in here that we can control via this remote. But one thing that I did notice before we even turn the system on is that we are missing the I/O shield. That doesn't make me particularly happy. The build almost looks incomplete, but that's if I'm looking at it from the rear. If you're looking at it from the side, well, I guess let's find out how it looks. Now, as I kind of suspected here after taking an initial look, this remote is only going to be able to control the 3 fans that are in here that were added on to provide some additional exhaust. And right now it's kind of on a demo mode because I hit the auto button, but there are 3 up here fans acting as exhaust, 1 on the rear and 2 on the top, that you can cycle through some different colors and effects and whatnot as you see fit, or put it on auto and it'll do its thing. So that's a nice touch that there is more airflow going on in this case. It is set up as significantly negative because we have only 1 intake fan at the front and then 3 exhausts at the rear. Honestly, in my experience, that's not going to create a huge issue at all. But you know, some people do like to know whether they have a positive or negative pressure setup, and this one is strictly negative. If you wanted to change that, you could add another fan here at the front and balance things out a little bit better. Now, if we are talking cable management, I think you did a pretty good job. There's a lot of excess room down here at the bottom of the case that is used to stuff the extra power supply cabling. The RGB control unit is mounted neatly against the motherboard tray, and every other wire that's back here is pretty well routed. I didn't have any problem getting the back panel off, and judging by the clearance, I don't think I'm going to have any problem getting it back on either. Cable management is kind of a touchy subject. To be honest, in a lot of the builds that I do for myself, I don't really cable manage all that well, just kind of enough to get by. But some people are pretty sticklers for that, and this seems to pass my checks. Similarly, I also think the main compartment here is well laid out, well thought out, well color coordinated, and I really like the use and routing of the cable extensions that he used here. The tower cooler is also an appropriate cooling mechanism for the Ryzen 5 3600. This is not a chip that's going to generate an excessive amount of heat. We're not going to be doing any crazy overclocking here. And going overboard with an AIO 240, 280, 360 millimeter AIO for a chip like this doesn't make any sense. You're going to be spending way too much money, focusing a lot of your budget on something that's not going to increase your performance at all. And honestly could increase the noise if you end up with, you know, fans that are blasting away trying to cool something that doesn't really need that much cooling. I often preach balance when it comes to your PC builds. Does your CPU GPU combo make sense? Is the motherboard appropriate for the processor and the connectivity that you need for your purposes? Is the storage enough for you moving forward? And is the case, fan, and cooling setup the right blend for your application? This really does seem to check a lot of the boxes that I would normally look for when putting together a PC build. It has an RTX 2070, a Ryzen 5 3600, which is a great combo. The case is nice and compact with seemingly a good amount of airflow. We are going to test temperatures though, so that remains to be seen. And everything in here really looks good. So thank you very much, Builds by Zeph. I do wish that you would have given me an IO shield back here, but besides that, I think you did a bang up job. I'm going to leave a link down below to Jawa.gg and also to Builds by Zeph. So if you are looking for a PC or a PC build, maybe you can hit him up and he can help you out. But what we want to do in this video series is see what this kind of an $800-ish build does in comparison to a high-end system, and what my experience is gaming on this with some budget peripherals and a budget monitor are going to be compared to what, I guess I'm used to at this point. So make sure you stay tuned and get subscribed for those upcoming videos where we're going to test the performance here, and I'm going to kind of go over what my experiences are. If you think this is a good idea and or you have some suggestions for what you might want to see next out of this, high-end versus budget comparison series, make sure you let me know down below in the comments. I will be reading through everything. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video.